Look, it's making its nodding movements. I don't know what it means when they do that, when they go with their head up and down.
Can't believe I didn't hear when I was
All right, so the female turtles, they come back to the beach where they were hatched to lay their eggs, and it doesn't matter if they were 600 to 1,000 miles away from here. When it's time to lay her eggs, she'll come back to the beach where she was born. I don't know how they know that, but they do, because they put some of those monitors on some of the babies, and then they see what they do. So when they lay their eggs, they lay about 100 in the little hole that they dig, and only one of those eggs will make it to maturity. So that's why they want to protect those turtles. Now, how did this island come to be like this with the limestone and the coral and all that? Our island was actually born far away from here. Our island was born in the Pacific, right close to the islands of the Galapagos. And we were just two little bumps underneath the ocean. And then the tectonic plate broke off. So the tectonic plate started moving to the north, and the two bumps on the tectonic plate with them. So they went north and further north, and then it veered, it broke off again, sorry. And some parts went north, and our part came to the east. And so it got stuck in the Caribbean. Now if you're perceptive, you'll say, like, how can it go through the Panama? There was no Panama, because I'm talking about 100 million years ago. And so when that tectonic plate got stuck to the South American continent, which is a lot warmer in the Caribbean than it is in the Pacific, a lot of coral reefs started growing around those two bumps. So the circles around the two bumps started becoming bigger and bigger until they met one another in the middle. So that's why we kind of look like a peanut or a figure 8. So all that coral reef was also skeletons of fish. So coral reef and limestone combined. So everything on the outside of the island is actually limestone combined with coral fossil. The tectonic plate that was kept moving northward got stuck in Alaska, or against Alaska. So we actually have sister islands in the Galapagos and in Alaska, or in front of Alaska. So that's how the island came to be. So only the center part of the two sections that used to be two bumps is actually fertile. That's why everything on the coast is very dry like this. So a lot of you were asking me about our income here. We don't calculate like average income. They calculate like how many people are unemployed. It's about 20%. How many people earn the minimum wage? That's about 30 to 35%. And then the biggest chunk of people earn about $1,200 US per month. We always calculate per month and not per year. So that's a bit how it is divided. Only about 10% earns enough to go on vacations and luxury cars and stuff like that. If you look off to the right on the hill, you see a funny house. The house is multicolored, and it has trees, dead trees that have colors. So there's a yellow tree and a red tree and a blue tree. And because of those trees, people call that house the lollipop house. We're not sure why the house is like that. Apparently the owner is pretty secluded. Another doggy here.
Oh, poor doggy, how like still.
So off to the right here, we have a road taking you to a beach. This beach is called Fisherman's Beach. There's always a lot of cars there because this is actually a beach where a lot of turtles swim. And they are attracted because when those fishermen clean their fish, they throw all that they don't want, the scales and the innards of the fish, they dump it in the water. So the turtles will come and eat that stuff. So these turtles are the lazy and obese turtles. No, these turtles have lived from the scraps of the fishermen so long that they cannot survive anymore outside these waters. So this is the little village of West Point, because this is where we make the bend from north coast to south coast.
Church.
And sometimes we have tours also that take people to go snorkeling with the turtles here. There's a lot of protest against that. So I'm not sure if it's happening as often as it used to anymore. I talked about an evergreen that has the little yellow apples, the manzanilla. We have another evergreen called Guayaca, and it's blooming purple flowers now. So if you see a big tree with dark green leaves and it has purple flowers, you'll know that it's the Guayaca. Here's another example of the fence that is made from
Ага,
canvas.
классно, да?
And there's an orange bird in the dry shrub, but at our next stop, I'll promise you'll see the national bird with the orange color. So here you get to see your first beach, and notice how calm the water is here. Only because we made the turn. So it's not even 2 miles away from where we were. Not maybe 2 miles, maybe 4 miles away from where we were. And this beach is one of 2 beaches that has brown pebbles instead of white sand. The brown pebbles come from the hills on the left, and they are stronger than the white sand that comes from the ocean. By the restaurant on the cliff there on the left, you see a little platform. That's where the young people like to jump off that cliff. Today we're not in luck because there's no one here ready to jump. It's about 45 feet high that they jump off of. And the water is actually very deep, so no threat to injury with your neck. However, it depends on how you jump, whether you can break your back or not, because I know of people who have become quadriplegic from jumping here. So since this parking lot is not very busy, we can stop here. If you look over your shoulder to the right, you see the fishermen's boats, and you see the pier from which the people are looking at the turtles down in the water below. And that piece of land that juts out into the ocean, that is our westernmost point. And this is where we are closest to Aruba, which is only 40 miles away from us.
Пока ты закончила. Сейчас бедная будет.
The house up here to the left, the white one.
So I also got the question, what kind of currency we have here? And we have a guilder, and the guilder is worth about half of the dollar. That means we almost have to pay 2 guilders to get to $1. So we have, I'm going to show you our money. I hope you can see it in the back of the bus. This is a 10 guilder bill, and each of the bills has one of our birds on it. So the 10 guilder bill is worth about $5.50, and it has the hummingbird on it. And then we do not have a $20 bill. We have a 25 guilder bill, and it has the flamingo on it. So each of the bills has their own bird, and they have their own color. So the 50 guilder bill is yellow, and the 100 is brown. So you can always distinguish which one is which. The 25 guilder is a little bit of a challenge when you have to calculate stuff, because then you have to say, okay, I gave you 7, so that's 18. Okay. There's another wara wara in front of the bus. So we're headed to our second stop now. And on the way, I'll tell you a little bit about the history, because you need to know about the revolt that we had. So first, the Spaniards thought this island was useless, and they stayed here nevertheless for about 140 to 150 years until the Dutch came along. The Spaniards had shipped off 80% of the natives to the island of Hispaniola to work there on the sugarcane plantations. So there were hardly any people living here when the Dutch came. And the Dutch had very different reasons to come here, no gold or silver. First of all, they wanted to attack the Spanish Armada. The Spaniards were leaving the port of Cartagena, which is only a day sail away, with loads of gold and silver. So the Dutch were planning on attacking the Armada. The other reason they came here is because they didn't have enough salt, and salt was very valuable back then. Some even called it white gold. So the Dutch came here to look for their salt. And in the bays that we have a lot of, we have about 7 of the bays, very shallow bays, they would cut off the water that was coming in from the ocean. Oh, there's another iguana that's going into the bush on the left. So they built these salt flats so they could just scoop up the salt from the shallow water once all the water from the ocean had evaporated. Of course, then they didn't have enough labor. And that's how our history of slavery began, because the Dutch started bringing in a lot of people from Africa. We didn't need a lot of people to work on the salt flats. The first couple of decades, we only had about 1,000 people from Africa living here. But the Dutch saw a lot of business in selling the people from Africa around the Caribbean, and especially to the Spanish colonies, because the Spaniards did not engage in bringing people from Africa. So the Dutch saw a business opportunity and made Curacao kind of like a marketplace for African people. So that's why we became a very rich island from all of this commerce going on. Well, all this commerce going on also meant a lot of people coming to the port from different islands. So one guy, he was an enslaved guy on the plantation that we're going to pass by just in a couple of minutes. His name was Tula, and he decided that he didn't want to be enslaved anymore, so he demanded his freedom. He had heard of a very successful revolt in Haiti, and so he said, we can do the same thing here. But the owner of this plantation, he sent his son on a horse to the city to warn all the soldiers. So they came here and they met at a place further down, because when Tula heard he wasn't getting his freedom, he gathered all the male slaves on this plantation and started moving to the next plantation. And that's how they gathered more and more, headed towards the city. I already told you there was a bloody battle and it was crushed. But not before. They spent a couple of weeks up in these hills until the soldiers poisoned the wells and they burnt all the crops of corn. And that's when they caught the leaders of this revolt, and they were gruesomely killed. So this is where the revolt started. This house is called Kenepa,